Welcome, New Templars, We Not Me, and Qranker Pit fans. We're here tonight with myself, Dylan Lewis Monroe, JasonQ ChiliMan, and Andy the Kid. We thought Qranker was going to be here, but he might show up at any minute. But we're going to kick this off. There's plenty to discuss. It's been 2 weeks since we were here. It's even been 2 weeks since I did a podcast. So much has happened. Everyone's talking about the Epstein files that weren't released. A lot of influencers turning on Trump, which I think everyone on this council is pretty much locked in terms of support for this operation. And so we can talk about, what the 5D chess move really means of not releasing those files, the effect it's having, which I think is pretty obvious enough that now even we have liberals and Democrat outlets demanding the release of those files. But there's plenty else to discuss from the big, beautiful bill, developments with XRP and Ripple, Brad Garlinghouse talking to a House committee hearing today, Ripple being announced as a bank. So we've got financial news, we've got, pedophile news all across the board. I mean, the MAGA agenda has been funded. And one other thing I'll mention right here in the beginning is just yesterday, the Supreme Court handed Trump a huge win, saying that he can fire anyone he wants. And so Doge has been empowered despite losing its head man, Elon Musk. All those Doge cuts have now been codified by the Supreme Court. And some articles are saying now Trump is completely free to gut the deep state as he wishes. So maybe let's do a quick little check-in with everyone, and then we can dive into any of those topics. So how about start off with Jason Q?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on, and I mean, we went through a lot of stuff yesterday, but these boom weeks, and then we correlated them with drops. I mean, it's what we're gonna go over is gonna blow some minds because because everybody's so worried about President Trump and they're succumbing to the deep state. No, you got to think of the bigger picture. If you think Diddy and Epstein are at the top of anything, you are sadly mistaken. You always want to go up. So this is gonna be a fun show.
Plus, we still have Ghislaine Maxwell locked in the slammer,
Yeah,
ready to
for
be
what?
tortured into any confession we want. So, Chili Man, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. It's hard to keep up with everything and still live your life uh, so much. I've seen some great shows. Jason's done some really good ones. For people that don't know what some of this stuff is. So the show, the theater that you're seeing, and people are losing their minds. Especially with the Epstein stuff. It's like the list and this. So is it all? And it's like the world is a stage, and who commands the arena, which is the clay. So it's so beautiful. We could talk about so many things, and I'm gonna leave it to you guys, man, and just let Jason go, and we can talk to the kid, because it's like we don't want to get bogged on the little details, the stuff, because we've already been through this last 8 years, but we're trying to bring people up to speed without taking the band-aid off too far and going it's too much too soon. But enjoy the show.
All right, the kid, what's up with you? Any stories standing out to you the past couple of weeks?
You know, I've been pretty busy. I haven't caught up on a lot of current events, so it'll be good to kind of listen to you guys talk about that. But what I do know, what I see is for people, things are moving forward. Just for my interactions, the things I'm able to get across, kind of bridging some gaps with many things. People are starting to, come along with certain aspects of having their own, opinion versus what they've been told. Also, very big news on the debt clock with what they put out on the secret window. They basically put out the We the People declaration to end the Fed, the bank and conglomerate, and it laid out in there basically exactly what the credit derivative swap stands for. When one underlying financial institution fails, the buyer receives the payoff. We are the buyer. It lays it out dang near perfectly in that the new secret window. And then also they have a tab on there you can click. It says free book. and then it lays it all out within like almost flowchart maps now for every step along the way that they've been doing it to us back from like 1100 to now. It's pretty interesting. So they're making it easier on there for people to kind of wrap their brain around it without just words, but also visuals, you know. So that was interesting. And you know, other than that, I see, you know, I just see things coming, you know, together. I know Jason's always got a lot to say. I'll chime in wherever I can. You know, we could talk about some financial system stuff. I know Qranker wanted to do that, but we'll just let it go where it goes. I know Jason's always got lots of stuff to say, so love to be here and looking forward to what's being said.
Awesome. Yeah, there definitely has been a lot of financial news the past 2 weeks, including Trump tweeting out that Jerome Powell must resign. And I've seen a couple different dates for that. I know Fox News has been announcing that that'll happen in 2026, but in the truther circles, it's sounding like that may happen much sooner, like by the end of summer. And seeing how much power Trump really has in that department. And when I talked to Qranker earlier today, he was saying he believes that Ripple may take over the Fed. And now I haven't read that anywhere else, but you know, Ripple's definitely looking like the only crypto company that has like representatives on these panels talking about the Genius Act. And you know, Trump is fully funded with that big, beautiful bill. And so a lot of influencers and you know, leftists and rightists alike are pretty much freaking out about the press conference that happened yesterday with Trump's cabinet meeting, where he made some pretty provocative statements, some of which I agreed with, and others kind of left me scratching my head. You know, the one I agreed with was what he said about Epstein when he said, "Why are you asking about this? Like, this is old news." But that's how I feel. I'm like, yes, Epstein is old news. I think a lot of people that were on that list have probably already been dealt with, including like Tom Hanks, you know, the big name celebrities that everyone wants, maybe even a lot of the big name politicians. So when Trump says this is old news, I understand why people want the list to be. There's Qranker.
Yeah, he's on now.
We're kind of in the middle of something here, Qranker, but we'll get to you in a second. So yeah, like I agreed with what Trump said about Epstein, and I fully understand. It was even a little bit comical to me. The way he said it, it literally sounded like he was reading a script, like trying to get people to freak out more about it by him kind of trying to brush it under the table. And so now you have the leftists saying, well, he's on that list, and so that's why he's trying to make it a cover up. He's utilizing the fact that the left and the media are so universally against him that he's purposefully coming out negatively on certain topics so that they will react in the opposite direction. And I mean, it's not even 5D chess, honestly. It's pretty basic cause and effect that is predictable from these leftists. Because anything that he endorses, they will hate. Anything that he hates, they will love. And so he's using that to his advantage. Now, the one thing he said in that press conference that sort of had me scratching my head was giving more weapons to Ukraine. Because that even goes against what he is all about. Because he has, you know, so many times said he wants the killing to stop. He goes over the death statistics like basically every press conference. So for him to then say, "Oh, actually, we're sending weapons to Ukraine," I'm still trying to make sense of that. So maybe JasonQ or someone can help me understand that. But it's not enough for me to turn on the maestro because I know, you know, there's always a 5D chess move in the works. And I guess before we go on, I'll hand over the hosting role to Qranker now. Welcome, Qranker.
Well, sorry, we had a storm out here and it knocked our power out and it came on. So, and then I was looking for the link to come through on my phone. So I didn't know that you sent it to me on Telegram. So I apologize for being late.
I sent it on both, but I was noticing some strange things with your text. So yeah, that's the other thing we haven't mentioned yet is there has been what seems to be a lot of weather warfare happening. Obviously the floods in Texas. There was just torrential rain in Chicago and you know minor flooding just last night, but someone has still got their finger on some weather warfare buttons, whether it's the White Hats or the deep state. So continue on there, Qranker.
Yeah, I don't think it's a deep state at all. I mean, we know what's going on down in Texas with the tunnels and the camps, Camp Mystic. You know, I think I mentioned this in a previous podcast that we did. I honestly think, and of course we have no proof of anything, but I honestly think that they're using weather warfare to take out the deep state. I think they're using the weather to create the so-called catnip. And unfortunately, I think there's people that are losing their lives over this, but you have to understand we're at war. And when you're at war, you have to take the best of both evils to eliminate the enemy. So when you take a look at like what happened in North Carolina and in Tennessee, and then you see what's going on, and not only in Texas but also in Arkansas and New Mexico, this is happening too, and in Chicago. You understand, if you've been in this movement, you understand about the tunnel systems. And when you have a 20-foot rush of water coming down the river, that's not natural. There's nothing natural about that. So my take on it is that the white hats are using this, and they're taking out the dumbs, and they're going after those beasts in the dumbs. I'd be interested in hearing what other people on the panel have to say about that.
JasonQ drop some intel on us. Come on.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a lot. Because, see, you've got, I just pulled it up. I checked the AI, and it says Texas, Virginia, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, North Carolina, New Mexico, Nebraska, Kansas, Iowa, Missouri, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, South Carolina, New Hampshire, and Maine. Those are all the states that are dealing with a lot of water right now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Watch the water.
Yep. I mean, what's the one? There's only 2 ways to cleanse something: with fire and water. And I actually have a quick video. It's like 1:10, and there was this Into Thin Air on YouTube, and he actually went over what happened in Chicago yesterday, because we were on the southern end of that, and it just came out of nowhere. I'm like, didn't you know it was supposed to rain? And
Well,
it came like
take a
crazy.
look, Jason. If you watch the radar on these storms, where they tell you it's going, and you watch the radar, these clouds all of a sudden just happen out of nowhere. And then they hit a certain area, and then it dissipates. It doesn't continue on.
That green flash of excitement, it correlates to the Schumann. When you see the harmonics spike, before with harp, you could cross-reference it because of the power that was being sucked. But if there is no way, it's like it's not a coincidence that these things happen. The Schumann 7.83, like it really doesn't vary much. That's the average. But you see the harmonics, and right when that spike was, that's exactly when that storm was. That's not coincidence. But that's also helping the people to correlate and to start getting out legislation to stop it. Just like Florida went to silver and gold, and now you see other. It's like it's slowly starting to show itself. But even though you see something bad, or you think it's bad, in the end, it turns out to be a blessing. So it's hard to figure out, and it could be just straight up, weather wars. It's been going on so long. I mean, for people that don't, it's not in their consciousness because they're just ignorant. It's like the research is there. It goes back to the British, and the Germans way back when.
So
Way before Vietnam.
I'm out here on the native land, and we have some folks in town, and they do their spiritual celebration this week over the moon, the full moon. And I was talking with a gentleman, and he's down here. He's part of the same tribe, and he's in Canada, and he's awake. And it was a joy to talk to him this afternoon. And him and I got talking, and he knows about the churches up in Saskatchewan and Manitoba. And he personally says, yes, that is true. So think about that. He knows they're all satanic. He knows about all the child pedophilia. He knows about all the children that are underneath these churches in Canada. And I did a decode a couple years ago, and whether it's true or not, but I had researched that Canada, yeah, the British, they're all underneath the British crown. So I just wanted to throw that in there. And we seen all those fires up in Canada. They were burning the churches and they were burning out all that evil bullshit. So the good thing is it's all being done. It's all being taken out. And when this is all done, we all come to the light.
Speaking of satanic churches, I haven't heard anyone else mention this, but we hear all these stories on the media about Camp Mystic and these girls that are missing. Well, I heard some other truther podcasts had figured out that Camp Mystic has had a lot of high level politicians' children that go there, and even high level politicians earlier in their career have been counselors, including I think Laura Bush is what I've heard. Now I should probably double check this, not just take News Treason's word for it, but I know he does pretty good research. And so, yeah, this Camp Mystic is associated with elite Texas politicians and their children. And having Laura Bush been a counselor there, and just the fact that it's called Camp Mystic. Mystic is generally a term that Christians ascribe to witches and warlocks and satanic stuff. So who would name a Christian camp Camp Mystic? Seems a little bit odd on the surface. And so I'm thinking maybe this Camp Mystic was some kind of like Mothers of Darkness training camp, or like just some kind of witches coven, starting these girls out young. And so it might be a lot less, Christianly and innocuous than it sounds on the surface. And not to say all those girls deserve to die, or even that they did or not, but I think, someone's trying to shine a spotlight on this camp and maybe several others that are ostensibly Christian, but actually satanic coven associated. And I've heard from whistleblowers a lot of the times these satanic covens in America are actually facilitated through churches, not just Christian camps, but through actual church congregations. So, of course, not all Christian churches, but there is this subset of them that this is how the Satanists organize themselves in the cover of Christianity.
And you can tell, Dylan, by the angle of the steeple, because the real churches are the ones at the ancient sites, and they sit at the nodes of the dodeca, the ratchet. We have a grid, and there's ley lines, and where they cross, you either have military psychotronics, telepathy, remote viewers, military grade, cold fusion. So when you look at the churches, they're not on sacred sites. They're tapping into the ley lines, but the outside ones, and they're doing nefarious shit. And you can tell by the angle of the steeple, and the symbols. So people that don't read symbols and don't know what's going on, just like they moved our capitals. Why did they move our capitals? Because they were on sacred sites. So it's kind of like, just like they brought the water onto the land, they took us off the land and out of our sacred sites. So it's a lot more involved than you think, because that energy is being harvested through kind of like a pyramid structure. So instead of it being healing and imploding seeds and everybody feel good and get healed, it's being used the star upside down to harvest, just like a stadium that's harvesting people fighting.
Yeah, it's interesting what we've learned in this movement and how much we've grown as far as knowledge and the technologies that are out there. I mean, learning that they've been controlling our weather for shit. I don't even know the true date. Jason, do you know? I mean, it was a major part of Vietnam War was manipulating the weather. So I don't know the exact date when they started manipulating our weather. And, we sit in front of the TV set and we have meteorologists with their clown suits on and doing their freaking clown show, and all of it's manipulated. It's all manipulated. And we grew up in this environment. Do you know the exact time when they started manipulating our weather, Jason?
Ezekiel.
I know it was the 70s, it was the early 70s, but they had to do it back in the 40s and early 50s in order to perfect it. So what I'm thinking is What if we actually do have all this technology, but the military industrial complex has kept it hid away? And also, back to the Camp Mystic. What if that was a mass satanic sacrifice? Because they want any kind of negative energy any way they can get it. So, I mean, who knows? And also, when you're mentioning ley lines, ChiliMan, we were watching a video the other night, and they're talking about the Aleutian Islands, which is an AI that's on the Ring of Fire, and we have all these bases on it. It's like, what are you guys doing? And what are you guys doing in that mountain in Alaska? The one with the big black pyramid inside.
There's a base that, just like base 1 is Washington, Alaska, that's the other base, because like it's like where all those ley lines cross. There are pyramids there. It's like either Crimea, Giza, Teotihuacan, Sacsayhuaman, and that's how you kind of go like, wow, like how old? When did the weather start? If you know Ezekiel, like wheels within wheels, like, and you hear those stories of that this place wasn't what you think it was, whether it was a canopy. There was no weather. It was like all 72 degrees, beautiful, like, and all of a sudden something happened, these Orion Wars, whatever, we got invaded, and the Arctic, right? The Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria, what's down there, what happened? That's the desert. That's the abyss. Antarctica, why can't nobody go down there? So, and it's like ley lines, pyramids, oh man, and they're all over the place. And some are coming up. They've been buried. Or is it that we couldn't see them before, that our conscious is raising, and the selenite crystals are coming through the ground? Did you see those poles in Nevada? Like they all came up. Like, what is that? Mother Earth shaking them off, or something vibrating? Are these ley lines being activated? Maybe our DNA is also connected to those, because that's what indigenous people call God, is when they talk to their ancestors.
There was no wind either. There was no wind that blew those power lines over. There was no storm. There was no wind.
From the old stories to the new stories, this stuff has been going on so long, and Chile, Argentina, Drake, Giants, AB Originals, like, and the land coming up from Alaska to all the way down to the Arctic, like that was Lemuria, but it's actually starting to raise. Like Chile is actually starting to come up. I got friends down there. They're geologists. They're, university professors, and they're like, Chile, man, like, because they don't know what I know, and I can't talk too much about it because they're so fixed. When it's like, look at the Titan, and they're like, what are you talking about? Come on, really, bro? Like the whole mouth, the veins, everything. It's silica. It's almost like our story is so beautiful and so ancient. So all this ancient stuff's coming to the forefront. And are you attuned? Alpha tone? Alpha physical 1? Are you raising your oil? Are you trying to make yourself better? God knows we've done a lot of stupid stuff. I've had some fun, but we're fighting for everybody now, for our ancestors, for all people. We all bleed red. We're all one tribe. They separated us. It's time to unite, to bring all our worlds together. We're not the enemy. This is not our nature. So it's going to be fun.
So, Chili, when you talk about the crystals and the pyramids and underground, I believe that's probably maybe where the crystal pyramids are, is under the Grand Canyon, because that my understanding was probably more of a plasma attack on the pyramids rather than being,
But wait a
washed
minute,
out by
because
river.
you can actually you can see pyramids on top of star forts. So the star forts definitely got conquered by the pyramids. You can see the progression. Even the Statue of Liberty, she's on a star fort. Is that Lucifer? You know, who are the Anunnaki? They're a big group. There's mistold stories too. And it's like, what is America? From the Mississippi to the Grand Canyon. Like, maybe it's the old world and not the new world. But what goes on at these sites is the four-wave mixing. That's where everything meets. So all the good stuff happens there. That's why even through wars and all these skirmishes, they've always been protected. I don't know by who, but there's a higher source, I think, loyal to source and not all this fuckery, that at least we have a chance to take back these sites. And some of them aren't good. You think they're good, but they do have a function. They're gravity imploders. There's a phase conjugate pump at the bottom, but that's like your heart. Your heart is a phase conjugate pump. And even Vogel, that guy that, Marcel Vogel, he literally transferred his conscious through a quartz, like turning water into wine. The Arks of the Covenant, the Syrian technology, the Orion Wars, like Tiamat. Like, we don't know anything about our history, our true story. We suffer from amnesia, but some people are remembering. And all this stuff's starting to make sense. They're worldwide power, but also maybe sometimes used as harvesting. Like the Egyptians may have gone like rogue. What's the Akhenaten story? It looks like Ramses II was chasing his ass. Who's Ramses II, Jason? Who's Ramses II? That's Trump's line. So that's a mistold story. I think he took the fucking ark. He's the asshole, and that's Akhenaten. Like, did he turn into Moses?
Yeah,
Tough
and
Moses? Moses is son of. So it's tough Moses. So, these stories that are mistold will really, the truth, man, just cuts through all the shit. So it's just nuts, bro.
It's
Sorry to
not
make
nuts. It's everything that we've been talking about in our previous shows, and that is we've been lied to our whole entire lives for thousands of years. And they've done a number of things with, poisoning our water, poisoning our toothpaste with fluoride. They've just been poisoning our food and our air, so that we never knew I am who I am. We never knew who we were. We were told who we were instead of us knowing who we are. So yeah, this is all good stuff here. Mike, thanks for coming on. We apologize. I had a little bit of a power outage here. We had a storm come through, and but we're all together here. Now I don't know, did you guys cover the big beautiful bill at all? Did you guys touch on that at all? Why I didn't get it on? So let's talk a little bit about this, because I did a call with Anna Marins on Independence Day with the people in Brazil, and it was a great call. And I don't think people really understand what happened on that day, because everyone, they're all drinking beer, pop, and barbecuing and doing their normal routine of 4th of July, which is actually our Independence Day. And then understanding or understanding what Trump signed that day was the big, beautiful bill. And then, of course, around 3 o'clock, we got the mother of all bombs. And if Dylan could pull it up, or Jason pull up on the deck clock and get it ready for us. But let's go around and talk about the big, beautiful bill, because I believe that this big, beautiful bill is definitely the marker that we were looking for. And also, it's not just for America, it's for the whole entire world. So let's start with Dylan, and we'll go around the table.
I certainly haven't read the big beautiful bill, and I know that the White House is saying one thing what's in it. The media, the leftist media, is saying it's going to ruin everyone's health care and be a horrible thing. I'm very optimistic about it, extremely optimistic about it. I mean, this is the one opportunity that we've had, the House, the Senate, and the presidency, to put the MAGA agenda into law. Trump seems to be happy about it. I think there's probably a lot in it that the White House isn't even saying. And I think that I also mentioned Qranker earlier that Trump had a big victory with the Supreme Court yesterday to gut these government departments. And so we're about to see the deep state get completely gutted, regardless of what these district judges have to say in distant parts of the country. They're not going to be able to stop it anymore. And the MAGA agenda is going to be fully funded with saying, we don't even have basically like a cap on what we can spend. He's increasing the debt, which some say is against what he said he would do. But we in the Truth Movement know that most likely the dollar, even though Trump's saying we want the strongest US dollar, is going to be the world reserve currency, we know that the Federal Reserve note is going to crash. We know that the global reserve currency will probably change in some way. Maybe it will still be controlled by the US, or U.S. interests, but that it will not be like the Federal Reserve fiat note anymore, because our dollar is such a devalued rate currently. And so, whether this big, beautiful bill will be what causes the overspending to actually collapse our financial system and introduce the new one, I'd say that's a good possibility. Not to say that we're spending irresponsibly, but Trump is doing a managed bankruptcy, as we've been saying for many years here. And I do want to, one last thing is point out that when he signed the bill and Mike Johnson handed him the hammer and he banged the hammer on the desk, we've been talking about drop the hammer comms in the Q community for a really long time. And I think that was a big signal of we've got the funding, we've got the permission from the Supreme Court, like it's time to drop the hammer. And just to connect that to Epstein briefly, we were talking about this before the actual video we started recording, that everyone wants this Epstein list. Well, you know what? They're building a RICO case, and we've known this for a long time. And they're not just going to release the list to the public because either the conservative podcasters or the libtards are demanding it. They're going to finish their RICO case, and there's going to be mass arrests. And it's not going to be related to this one mid-level player, Epstein, when these mass arrests actually happen. So that's my take on the big, beautiful bill so far. And I'm sure there's so much more if you really could read it and understand everything it's going to do. But I think we're in for a whole transformation of our country.
Thanks, Dylan. Yeah, if you would pull that up, it's on whitehouse.gov and it's right there. It really talks about the taxes that are going away. It talks about a lot of money coming back to us. It talks about the Federal Reserve, the IRS. It goes in deep. So everyone can find it at whitehouse.gov. So, and the big, beautiful bill. So let's jump over to Mike. Mike, let's hear from you.
Yeah. So I think in terms of what Dylan just said, I think the fiat system it's going away. So there's got to be a good cop. There's got to be a bad cop, and I think whether the good cop bad cop scenario plays out with Elon and Trump, or what's his name? Federal Reserve. My gosh.
Powell.
Yeah, Powell. I mean, there's all these good cop, bad cop scenarios playing out. So, Elon and Trump. I mean, there's so many of line in the sand people and things that are happening. I think when we look at exactly what's going on, we're at that precipice of the financial system, and look what happened with XRP today on Capitol Hill. So there's a lot of things with I would call it the things that we know that's happening, and the fiat system that are exciting to actually be a witness to. So.
Thanks, Mike. Jason, let's talk about the big, beautiful bill.
Now, let's use the proper terminology. It's one big, beautiful bill act. Why did they name it that? Well, when they said one, O-N-E, they spelled it out, right? So that's a one. B, 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 A. That's a 7, right? But there has to be 2 of them. Well, wouldn't that be one big, beautiful bankruptcy act as well? Because everything's done by the numbers, right? So it raised the debt ceiling by 5 trillion, right? But it increases our debt 2.8 trillion by 2034. So 2 plus 8 is 10, plus 3 plus 4, 17. Even down to Jerome Powell. It's a 10 and a 1-6. It's a 7, 17. I think that they're all working on this because the dollar has to be the reserve. It has to be the main currency, but it's not the fiat dollar. It's the new future treasury dollars. Because remember, it has to go through us because Trump has all the gold. So he could back everything. So now they're doing all these, all these wars and war games and everything, having everybody on edge. Look here, not there. So they're spinning everything around because when did he say that he wanted that on his desk by? He said, I need that bill on my desk by July 4th. No exceptions, right? Wonder why? Well, here's why. Because on July 14th, the Federal Reserve Bank FedWire service will transition to ISO 20022 format. The cutover weekend begins on Friday, July 11th at 7 p.m. 6 Central. When the Federal Reserve opens on Sunday, July 13th at 9 p.m. 8 p.m. Central, the new format will supersede the FedWire application interface manual format. After the transition, any wires not updated to comply with the new format will be rejected by the Federal Reserve System. But then Vincent Kennedy says they want you distracted. But he needs to back up a little bit because there's a lot of meat on this bone. So, if you notice, July 4th was on a Friday. What's the next Friday? It's July 11th. But why would they make it July 11th? Because the IRS was founded on 7/11/1933. When President Trump was talking about 1913 and the IRS, it wasn't the IRS. That was the Bureau of Internal Revenue. They actually became defunct in the 50s because we had our debt paid off. But then you had the IRS, which was created by 3 people, Barton's and then that Lawrence Echevarria. So now you look at this, but Federal Reserve opens on Sunday, July 13th. Huh. You don't say. You know what the funny thing about that date is? This is number 3, right? Because 3.0. Now, on July 13th, 2018, that's when President Trump went over to England and he inspected his troops. That's when the whole Queen, it was all the switching around. It's July 13th because it was a Friday the 13th. It was the 711th anniversary of the burning of the stake in 1307 with the Knights Templar, right? So you have that. Then you go forward. Was it 6 years? Yeah, 2018 to 24, right? What happened on July 13th? That's when he got shot, right? That's a 1-year anniversary. Then you look at this. That's why he said, I have to sign this by the 4th of July. Because fireworks, right? 4th of July. It's a boom week. So now when we have all these boom weeks, I mean, we have it all laid out that, I mean, it's a lot, but we have it all written down. We have it all posted and everything. We could go over it if you like. And it makes the most sense.
Let's do that, Jace, because this is important for the people to understand the history that's behind what's going on. And everything, as we talked earlier today, everything has to happen twice. And that's so important because we have to break the spell.
Yep. Speaking of breaking the spell, I showed these guys off camera, but this now, July 7th, BB was summoned back to the White House, right? If you notice, it's 91 days since the last time he was here on April 7th, right? But July 7th, he was at the White House because that's the 21-month anniversary of Gaza. Now, this came out July 7th, 2025 at 11:45 p.m. Why would they make it 11:45 p.m.? That's a 9/11. Moody affirms Israel's BAA1 rating, warns Iran conflict to deepen fiscal strain, or is that a bail rating? Because for some reason, you look at it, that says bail.
Cult of
Right?
Baal.
Yep. So they're already saying they're demonic. It's like, shit, we know. Then, let's see. So, here we go. All right. So, there's 4 boom weeks, but it's not in sequential order. And we can tell how everything fits. From 6/8 to 6/14, that was the first boom week. Be 6/8 of 67, that was USS Liberty. Then you have 6/14, right? You have 3 things happening that day. Flag Day, POTUS's birthday, and the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army founding. But there were also 2 other things that were happening in the darkness. You had the No Kings protest, which was brilliant, because on the same day, they had the King's birthday parade in the UK. So having a No King's Day parade on the same day that they had the King's parade over in the UK, it kind of canceled that out. Now, we skipped the weeks of 6/15 to 6/21, 6/22 to 6/28, right? Because you have to consider these 2 events. They're skipped weeks because everything has to be done twice, because we actually have a document for that too that came out from Space Force on the 3rd. Now, it resumes on 6/29 to 7/5 because on Friday, it's the 4th of July. 7/6 to 7/12. Well, 7/11 is on a Friday. 7/11, 1933, the IRS began. Then you go 7/13 to 7/19, right? 7/19 is a double 17. But there's a lot more because you have 7/19, that's a 17, but that's also an 8. And you're in the year 2025, which is an automatic 9. 8 and 9 is 17. Right? Now, the funny thing about this is, this week right here, the 7/13 to 7/19. What's right in the middle of that week? 7/16, right? What happened on 7/16 of 1999? JFK Jr. died, right? Now, from 7/19, this is where you can put the 10 days in. 7/19 to 7/29 is 10 days, right? Because of this. This is absolutely brilliant how they did this. So, under ex parte Quirin, right? 317 U.S. 1, 1942. It is a case of the United States Supreme Court during World War II that upheld the jurisdiction of a United States military tribunal over the trial of 8 German saboteurs in the United States. It's cited as a precedent for the trial by military commission for any unlawful combatant against the United States. So, if we add those 10 days from 7/19, there's 3.0. The 29th, 30th, and 31st, right? The extended opinion filed the next day after the Q drops, October 29th, right? So, what this does is, that's all the sugarcoating stuff, because the big stuff is right here. So, notice that he put up a new FDR painting. It's like, what the hell is he doing that, right? July 2nd, 1942. FDR issued Executive Proclamation 2561, which is a 7/7, establishing a military tribunal to prosecute the Germans. Because what this does, you can actually declare, because remember, they already declared Antifa as a terrorist organization, right? But now you got the communists, the big red scare, right? So from July 8th, yesterday, to August 1st, there was a trial that took place of these 8 Germans, right? So there's a bunch of snitching that went on. But the constitutionality of military tribunals, they fought about it. And it's actually funny because they say that Roosevelt had no right to create a military tribunal to try his clients. But he did, because you're in wartime. That's why Trump says he's a wartime president. You have to be a wartime president to have all these, special bells and whistles. Because, well, I do believe we're being invaded. This was a complete invasion, right? So it goes on to say that responded to the clients who acted on behalf of the German government secretly entered into U.S. territory without proper uniforms in time of war for the purpose of committing hostile acts. Were not entitled to have access to civilian courts. So if you had a bunch of, military-aged men crossing the border in just street clothes, they're into U.S. territory without proper uniforms in the time of war for the purpose of committing hostile acts. Well, if they're all waving these flags from all these countries that they came from, that they don't want to go back to, what exactly are they trying to do? This has been their plan since the whole Operation Peter Pan, when they brought all the Cubans over here. I mean, this is evil. Evil, evil, evil. Let me see. Let's see. Royal. Let's see. Nope, that's not it. Let's see. Oh, next one down. So Royal argued that the German landings at New York and Florida could not be characterized as zones of military operation and contended there was no combat there or plausible threat of invasion by approaching enemy forces. He argued that civilian courts were functioning and under the circumstances they were the appropriate venue for the case to be heard. But Biddle responded that the U.S. and Germany were at war and cited the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, the same one he refers to. Here it is. That whenever there is a declared war between the United States and any foreign nation or government, or any invasion or predatory incursion is perpetrated, invasion or predatory incursion, that's exactly what this is. They're not here to assimilate. They're here to overthrow the government, or threatened against the territory of the United States by any foreign nation government, and the president makes public proclamation of the event. He said it was an invasion. That's a public proclamation. All native citizens, denizens, or subjects of the hostile nation or government, being the age of 14 years and upward, who shall be within the United States and not actually naturalized, shall be liable to be apprehended, restrained, secured, and removed as alien enemies. Now, go to...
So basically, this is the 10 days, and in darkness, it's on the Q post. It's not 10 days of darkness. It's 10 days and then darkness.
Dark to light.
Correct. Yeah. So many people got that wrong. They keep calling it 10 days of darkness. It's not 10 days of darkness.
Nope. It never says 10 days of, it never in any of them says 10 days of darkness. Not one of them. It says 10 days, and then below it says darkness.
Correct. I just wanted to make that clear because this proves that, because everyone talks about the 10 days of darkness. There is no 10 days of darkness.
Nope.
There is trading with the enemy, the trading with the enemies, all those contracts, the addendums, and it's like, it goes way back, because people got to realize that we were invaded by a foreign government a long time ago. We're not fighting for, it's like we got our asses kicked a long time ago from the enemy within. So it's like, what is Washington? And as you see stuff revert, where you don't see Washington, D.C. anymore, District of Columbia, you know, and then you can kind of go back and even see a movie like Scarface, how the media, you know, and it's like, what are all these Cubans? You know, Venezuela did the same thing to Chile and the United States by sending all their hospitals and their criminals, you know, and there was Scarface saying, you know, I want to talk to Jimmy Carter and, you know, I want my human rights. It was all a communist takeover. It was like the Red Scare was real. McCarthy was trying to warn us way back when. So it's like modus operandi, but people don't see this. And this goes back to even the Moors and the Africans that were the imposters to take over the melanated people over here. You know, so there was like colored presidents before, you know, the founding fathers and all these British invaders and the French and the Huguenots, and it's like we got invaded by everybody. So it's about time to take our ancestral lines and our lands and become a tribe.
Right.
Tribe.
Yeah.
Like
it's
I'll settle for some sort of republic to start with, but we are a worldwide tribe.
Well,
and we don't hold slaves. Slavery doesn't exist.
It's important too that everyone understands that every country has been a corporation, not just the United States. So that's what I was explaining to the people in Brazil on Independence Day, that this Independence Day is worldwide. It's just not for the United States because we're all corporates. All those countries are all corporations. They're all structured under the British Crown. And that is how they took in our freedom away. So, Jason, you want to finish up?
I think you're on mute, Jason.
Sorry about that. But yeah, it's just 8 pages. But the thing is, we actually have the corresponding drops that go with everything that's happening because everything has to happen twice. So, in 1942, 729, 730, 721, ex parte queering, argued and decided. 8-1, it went into effect. That starts a hot month, right? Sure does. Now, ex parte queering was in 42. 2025 to 42 is 83 years. That's an 11. What year is it now? It's 2025. There's your 9/11 right there. Okay. 10/7 to 22 to 7. That's when BB's here, right? But from 7/19, if you add 21 days, right? Because you have to observe the 10/7/22 to 7/7/25, the 21 months. Because you have to go months to days, you know, weeks to days, all that. So now 7/19 plus 21 days, 8/10/2025. We had 2 skipped weeks within boom weeks, right? So if you go 8/10 and you go back 2 days, you get 8/8/25, which is the 3-year anniversary of them deciding to raid Mar-a-Lago. Now, post 3543 on July 29, 2019 says speed accelerated +5. 8/10 plus 5 days is 8/15, right? The letter, right, ChiliMan? And 8/15/2025 all added together is a 23 pane. Now, it's the 154th anniversary of the letter, but it's also the 54-year anniversary of Nixon taking us off the gold standard. The first time was FDR at 33, right? So here's all the posts. It's 111, 121, 131, 141, 1511, 611, 711, 81, and 191. Because he keeps on going November 5th, right? Well, November 22nd, 2017 is what 191 was on, right? That's 17 days, right? What happened on this day? Twice, right? You had 11/22/1822, and that was a secret treaty of Verona, and then we all know 11/22/1963. But it's all on the timestamps. Post 111, the timestamp is 11/34/15. But in military time, it's 23/34/15, which is 576, which equals 18. But you have hours, minutes, seconds. So 5 by 3, 666. But your post 111 moves up to 777. Same thing in post 121. 45224, 17. Post 131, 35514, it's an 18, or in military, it's 15, 55, 14, which is 21. Post 141, 1:53:04 p.m., it's a 14, or 23:53:04, which is a 17. Post 151, and I'll show you the post too and how they correlate with everything going on.
Hey, Jason,
Yes.
before you go on, please explain to those that don't know the meaning behind the number 17, because we all know on the panel, but there may be people that watch this that have no idea what that means.
Well, the internet's right there for them. I mean, you want me to come over and wipe their ass too? I mean, shit. You know, I mean, fuck.
I get it. I get it.
Hey, if they're just starting out, when you don't know how to swim, do you jump in the deep end?
No,
No.
no.
So it's like they got to learn how to swim.
Yeah, but it's the military telling us that they're in control.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Totally.
so to elaborate a little bit on 17 though, because you call yourself JasonQ, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So for the number 17, the Q, the letter Q is actually you. It's us. It's the ovary and the sperms going into the ovary with the tail coming out. That's the tail of the Q. It's actually the inception of the sperm to the what the hell they call that?
The ovary.
Yeah. Okay.
Ovary.
So
Yeah.
it goes in the ovary, and so that's actually Q, and it's really crazy that that's the way that letter looks. And it was just explained to me, my opinion from a professor from the higher realms, long ago. So interesting letter for everything, because it also has references to Osiris and things like that too. But they use it against them because they use it against us.
Yeah, and
for the number warfare.
It also is conquering the enemy. It also means conquering the enemy.
It's a very interesting number.
And also, in the Jewish Encyclopedia, because you have the Jewish Encyclopedia, right? They have 24 letters in their alphabet. They don't have a Q or an X. Makes a lot of sense now, huh? That's who we're going after. So, post 151, you've got 125110, 12511 is a 10. There's your 151, there's your 7 in the post, 17. Then 161, there's a drop within a drop. It happens 3 times. The first one is at 327.48 within it and 336.59 outside of it. 9 minutes, 11 seconds. It's all timing.
Do you just dream numbers, Jason?
What's that?
When you're sleeping, do you just dream numbers too? I mean, I don't understand how you get all this stuff done and how you connect all this stuff, man.
I wish I knew. I mean, I don't know what I dream of. It's just, I mean, all this shit just comes to you. It's just like you start spotting and you're like,
yeah.
There's the numbers. It's like,
I mean, the stuff they put together is amazing. I just wonder how much time you spend, doing it. So that's why I asked.
It's like been 8 years?
Yeah.
Almost 8 years.
Nose to nose, man. You got it.
I mean, that's the thing. It's all of us. I mean,
yeah.
Because we're feed off one another, and if one of us gets it, we all get it. Because it's a collective consciousness. It's a beautiful thing, and that's the thing.
Entanglement.
Yep.
Yes.
That's why spreading this out, and it's like, are we going to be right? Who knows? But it sure does look mathematically impossible right now.
At least we're trying, and I love your take on it, because it confirms everything I think with all the time with the numbers based on not only the astrological things but also the spiritual things too that I've come across. It's insane how you put it together. And whenever you're done, I have a few things to say about the financial system and a couple other things. I've just been taking some notes. So
cool.
Real quick, because kid, it's like there's so many angles to this that even if you look at the Phoenician, the Q is actually a circle with a line going right down the middle. It's like perfect balance. And it's like, well, what's before the Q? P. Like a plane is a photonic lane. The P is actually photonic light. And when the sperm hits that egg, there's a 7 stage that happens. And then that's when the egg dimples. So you're talking photonic light. The Q, 7 plus 1 is 8. That's that infinity. So that's why it's that perfect balance. So even when you see the R, it's like that's rising. That's the Father, the Son, and the Mother holding them both up. So when you see these, it's like it's not only just numerology.
That's
It's
the true Trinity
hermetic.
too. Father,
Yes,
Mother, Son.
exactly. Hermetic
Yes.
principles. And that's when
Yes.
it's like, why is the R the R? Because
I love
that's
that
also
take, Chili. I
it's
love.
although it's also the 9, which is your conscious. So when you see all these numbers and the 777s, and it's a guide too for higher knowledge. When you see structures, geometric shapes, and you get to the point where you can almost smell and see the color that coordinates. That's how scientists know that, there's a lot of copper over there because of how that color is coming through. So either it's chromium, uh, ferrite, whatever it is, manganese, they can tell just by the color on the spectrum. So it's not only math, numbers, it's structures, and your brain starts to work after a while when you see this stuff, and you can go forwards, backwards, and redefine time. Redefine, because people say, hey, you time travel. It's like, before you get into the time travel, why don't you just spell it backwards? It says emit. So how do you stop time? Intense human attention. There's all this stuff that goes along with the numbers. So it's kind of cool that way. If you look at it from 100 different angles and you get to the same thing, it can't be a coincidence.
Well, we pretty much covered Q there, Jason. So
Actually, no, we didn't.
That was great.
No, we didn't.
Well, no, that was great.
No, we didn't.
But
Because
elaborate, Jason. Elaborate.
because isn't it funny that number two, both of those early signs have been compared by some scholars to the Q sign that was developed about 1000 BC in Byblos and other Phoenician and Canaanite centers. 1000 BC, right? If you go to post 1000, they have an H. An H is an 8. That's an 8. 1,000 years, guys. 1,000 years. And plus, these right here, you know what the funny thing is that when you look at these and you put the line through it, it's the power button on your computer. Also, got that one.
Are you using Chat GBT right now?
No, I just looked it up on Britannica.com.
Gotcha.
Oh, I don't use ChatGPT. I used the one on DuckDuckGo. I very seldom use AI. It's just if I need to find something right now, I'll check it, but then I'm still going to go back and research it because
Jason's brain is more advanced than the AI, guaranteed.
my trust level with AI is very, very slim. But it's same. Yep, right.
That's the connection to the
Well,
notes.
there's different AIs too. If you'll notice, some are complete garbage because all they do is reference all the engines. So if you deal with the AI on a sovereign basis, where you have to, it's like it's just a tool. It's not your pet. It's not, if it's telling you that it's going to talk to your grandfather, that's, you gotta, like, without getting into black goo or corrupted AI systems that are very dangerous. You have to tread lightly with the AI right now because it's very seductive, and we have to address the issues with the ear pods in the ear, with the Wi-Fi, with the bad signals. So we don't want humanity losing their soul to some you think is an AI like a god. No, that's the cube. That's the AI worship. That's what has infected the cosmos and all of humanity. Like, we have to stop. And we are the alpha intelligence. We have telepathy. We have intuition. Like, we have a higher built inside of us. We just, this is beneath us. But a controlled AI that you're using as a tool is different than one that you think is your new pet or your new friend that's going to take you into the future.
Very good. Thanks, Charlie. Let's let Jason finish up here.
Yeah, and then so also you got 171, 71708, which you added up, it's 23, or in military it's 1917, 08, 25-7. Post 181, there's 2 drops, but the difference is 23 minutes and 52 seconds. There's a 25, 52, boom, boom, which 25, 52 is a 7-7. And then post 191, there's 2 drops, and the difference is 1 minute and 4 seconds. But also, if you take the 4 seconds off, you have 1 minute. How much time was missing from that Epstein video?
Exactly
1 minute.
1 minute.
Then you look at the same day they killed the Epstein story, right? 7/6, everybody's like, oh, it was the 187th day of the year, guys. They had to kill it then, but they didn't kill it because now they're saying, well, we don't have it. It's like, well, who has it? Huber's got it. It's in the drops, right? Well, we'll show you, but day 188 year, 7/7/25. The same day BB came here, that's a 17. When he came here on 4/7 of 2025, which is 9/11, Trump was saying, hey, you're getting a 17% tariff put on you. That's a 17%. And then 7/7/25 is a 21 or 23. BB's at the White House twice, 9/11, 23 Payne. Oh, and right here, because right here, it's a 141-year difference, right? And that goes right to post 141. You have 3 dates, right? Remember we said that we went back to 8/8, right? How it jumped forward to 8/8 and then 8/10. Well, 8/8/2022, the raid on Mar-a-Lago, right? 8/9/2019, Epstein supposedly killed himself. He's like, oh, it was on August 10th, and but nobody checked the cell. Nobody knows what happened, anything. But there's a hooded figure in those videos that nobody can explain. Funny. Then 8/10/2025, the 21 days post 7/19. If you notice, it's all 3s. You break the 33, just like you broke the 13. August typically got a hot month. It's the 8th month. 2025 is 9. The whole month is a 17. Hot, red in color, red communism. August 1st is when that ex parte queer went into play. Commies are unlawful combatants within the U.S. How do we know that? Because Vance said, he mentioned Jose Padilla. The funny thing about Jose Padilla and Alex Padilla, the J is a 10, the A is a 1. So you cut the 0 off, you got 1, 1. The P is a 16, which is a 7, double 17s, or it's a double 88 speed. And then you had the Tunguska event. Right? Now that event that's massive. That goes to the morning sun brings heat and all that. Because that happened on June 30th, 1908. And 80 million trees leveled. Why'd Trump put the Trillion Trees Act in? Always ahead of the game. Then, post 3581, 11/11/2019, right? You look at the time, it's a 17. Using Durham as a model and drop, right? Because what this is, I'll bring up that drop real quick. Which one was it? Shit.
That was like a nuclear blast, right, Jason? Like in Russia, where you could see all the.
Yeah, they don't know what it was. I'm like, what is it? I mean,
it was a detonation. Like it didn't hit the ground, but it was so powerful that it was atomic, and that was after the Carrington effect.
Yes.
So it was like, was there, and I think even Ancient Aliens does a little skit on it where they say, is there something like ancient that is a protective kind of thing, that if something like that came in, that, because it detonated before, like, what was it? And it's like, hush, hush.
Yeah.
They know what it was, but we don't know.
Yeah. But yet the funny thing is that when that happened, it seems that those in Antarctica and in the southern hemisphere saw the aurora borealis. How do you see the aurora borealis if you're on the underside of the Earth? Unless it's a massive plane and it's not a spinning ball, but it's way bigger than what we thought. So back to this drop, right? Calm before the storm POTUS. Month day Q public campaign initiated. Month day Durham initiated. what famous crime family did Durham target? The Gambino, Genovese, and Patriarchia family, right? It says, what ABC agency did Durham target? CIA. How are messages sent? Then it has a date. It says, what if there's another prosecutor outside of DC assigned by Sessions with the same mandate authority? That's Huber, right? Because if you put Huber in here, right? Like, what famous crime family is Huber going after, right? Well, if he went after the Italians, that means Huber's going after the Jewish/Russian mob families, like Mega, JDL, APAC, all of them. But when we get to here, what ABC agency did Durham target? Who's Huber targeting? ABCDEF, the FBI, or the Fed. I think it's the FBI because which FBI? Not an FBI here in America. The FBI in Tel Aviv. That's the one people need to worry about because they have a full functioning FBI office in Tel Aviv.
What if Jason, no, the Federal Reserve was funding that FBI in Tel Aviv? Because if you really look at it, the Federal Reserve is the head of the octopus, and all the tentacles go out from the Federal Reserve.
Well, remember, everything's got to be done twice, though, right? This is where we put out the DEFCON, right? DEFCON, there's 3 of them. You have the DEFCON, alert system. Then you have DEFCON, the black hats. Then you have DEFCON, the con, right? It's C before D, well, C before D and D before E, E before F. So you have C before D. So you start with Diddy. Yeah, Diddy before Epstein, because Diddy was, whatever. And then here comes Epstein. And then the federal government from Germany. That whole federal bullshit over in Germany. Because they're the real dirty ones too. I mean, it's nasty, nasty, nasty. But I got one more to show you guys, because when you see how the drops, right? And let's see. Now, this gets a little crazy because 111, November 5th, right? Now, HUMA, H-U-M-A, that's Harvard University Muslim Alliance. It says what U.S. President, Obama, of course, who funded on behalf, that's bin Talal. But remember, then you go down, refocus again, right? Arrested ASEA and all that. But what's it? Who funds the majority of U.S. senior politician? Israel. Fantasyland, Fantasyland. This one right here. Now we have to not look back, but we have to look currently. Was the former president, Biden, groomed to be command-in-chief? Not commander-in-chief, command-in-chief. Because he was not the commander. The Autopen was the commander. Is this possible? Are they all, U.S. political election system? Yes. They never thought she would lose. Who's they, right? We all know who they are. Who rigged the election? It was Israel. Israel puts whoever they want in. If they can't win, just like all the cybersecurity, they're the first ones to say, oh, we're all about cybersecurity. But then, Godfather 3, see where that comes into play. He's now post 121. Let's see. They talk about Yemen, right? Declassified states, Japan 11.5, right? But when it comes down here, start talking about ID4, right? Argument for not allowing voter ID laws to be enacted. Why are immigrants important? Why are illegals important, right? Why is the open border important? Now you look at this. What did Barack say on the campaign trail last year to the illegals within the U.S. in 2024? Right? What did he encourage? A revolution. Was it legal? Hell yeah, it was. Beyond illegal. Then to 131. That's the POTUS NatSec e-briefing, 3:02 a.m. Please stand by because it goes from November 10th. This briefing, 3:02 a.m., will be on November 11th. Because if it's November 10th, 3:55:14, it's the next morning. Then go to 141. This one is very impressive because rogue operators are here, failed to shut down site, protected. This will only get worse. All this, right? Why is 141? What does that have to do with? Remember, from the secret treaty of Rona to JFK's assassination, it was 141 years. They're the rogue operators. It's everybody in Europe. It's all the Pope, the Godfather 3. You got the 3 popes. Then we have 151. Further. How do you capture a very dangerous animal, right? Do you attack it from the front? Do you walk through the front door? No. This dangerous animal they're talking about is Hillary. You don't walk through the front door. You throw it through the side door. Because Admiral Rogers, this is all done pre-election of 2016. Now, we go a little bit further down. They do it again. How do you capture a very dangerous animal? Who is best to conduct the attack? President Trump. Was the one force necessary to regain control? Military. Why does the U.S. military play such a vital role in this global game of risk? That's easy. Just check out the Total Diplomacy, The Art of Winning Risk by Ethan Honore. Tells you right in there. It tells you everything you need to know about everything that's going on right now. They wrote a book about it in 2005. Then they talk about Air Force One landing Hawaii because Air Force in-air refueling ability. They went to Hawaii because there's a portal to go to Alaska. He took the U.S. United States Marine Corps with him, locked and loaded to go. Was D.C. vote? Yeah, Clinton smoked Trump in D.C. It's a swamp. Why would sealed indictments be outside of D.C. jurisdiction, like Utah? Because they don't know.
Yeah, they don't know.
Yeah,
DC was also a foreign country.
Yep. And now they start saying it's the city of Washington. Funny, right? But it says, how do you capture a very dangerous animal? What if it's not a capture? Because then you go to 161, changes it up. How do you lure a dangerous animal into a trap? Notice the upside down cross. Well, we know they're all atheists over there, right? You lured them because you're like, hey, hey, Israel Supreme Court, you need to pardon them, right? He's telling them, you need to pardon Bibi, and he's my friend. You can't do this. Sure. Now, you go to 171. Good will always defeat evil. That's great. I love that. We'll take it. Then we'll go to 181. This word changes up. Oh, shit, passed by it. Okay, it says, Dear Q, Jesus Christ was fucking pissed at his apostles most of the time because they were stupid fucks at the time. They couldn't piece together even the most basic of clues. We're no different than are even more clueless. We're trying, but you really do have to spell it out for us. Sorry, we believe you in speaking the truth. To whom else can we turn? So put up with our shit and help us, and we'll do what you ask. Sniffer progs would kill the site. All right, remember, Israel, can't mention them. That's it. Everything has to be done carefully crafted and tooled prior to release. Why is that? So they put this out there, right? That Christ was pissed at the apostles, right? No, not at all. Because when we go back to the 34-page document that you can find on U.S. The debt clock, on the third page, and Jesus went in the temple of God and cast out all of them that sold and bought in the temple and overthrew the tables of the money changers. Then here comes the second temple of Jerusalem. Money changers. Interesting. The only time Jesus showed any kind of aggression or physical display of anger in his entire ministry was when he flipped over the tables because of Das Juden. So he wasn't pissed off the apostles at all. He's pissed off at them, the synagogue of Satan.
And those are stone tables too. Those weren't wooden tables.
Yeah. And it's like you've got to admit, it's like that's pretty fucking
the money changers.
Yep.
So Jason, that's a great segue to go into what I want to do towards the end. Go
191
ahead,
goes
finish
right,
finish
and then
up.
191 goes right to the Vatican. So you got to deal with Israel, the Vatican, right there.
Added a snake.
Yep.
And I want to just add, all those are 2017 Q drops, which even people who question Q, it's like the later ones is where we started thinking other people, other factions may have started slipping in ideas. But those early ones, like 2017, is the purest, like the most correlations back to them, the purest form of the Q drop. So even if it was infiltrated later, like those are the ones that just had the timestamps, had the Q clock, had all the most important information. I mean, I think there was important ones going into 2018 and 2019, but like that's the purest form of like the Q operation right there. So many different cross references, confirmations. Are we ready to share that clock?
Yeah, I just want to thank Jason for all that hard work. I appreciate it. So what Jason did there was put us into the segue going into the debt clock, because on Independence Day, the debt clock dropped the mother of all bombs. And what I'd like to do, Dylan, is, we'll get Andy involved here, but what I'd like you to do is open up that secret window and read that secret window, please.
So yeah, there's the debt clock, and then you're saying this showed up on July 4th, Cranker?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, so you go ahead and read it, and then Jason already showed when you download this PDF. That's what Jason had just showed there, which I just saw as I was on this call. So I still have to investigate that. But yeah, what have you discovered here?
Can you read that, Dylan? My eyes can't see that.
Sure. In accordance with the power granted to we the people by the Most High God, we assert our right to secure our life, liberty, and property. In doing, we find it necessary to undo the injustice brought upon us by a secret private banking conglomerate known as the Federal Reserve. The Fed has systematically stripped the wealth of our nation and placed it into the hands of an elite few, using a carefully crafted criminal scheme dating back over 100 years. While posing as a federal agency, they operated as an unlawful money laundering and racketeering debt and interest exchange that has no actual reserves. Because of the fraudulent nature of their enterprise, we the people seek full reparations and restitution of assets acquired from the inception of the conspiracy to counterfeit the USA dollar. We expect these forfeited assets to be remitted towards the establishment of the USA Sovereign Wealth Reserve, which is exclusively owned by the American people on this day, July 4th, 2025. We the people declare our independence from the Federal Reserve Bank. Beautiful.
Thank you, Dylan.
Want me to pull up the PDF now?
Yeah. Andy, you want to add to that?
Well, just a little bit, because at the bottom, it alludes to sorry, somebody's trying to call me. The USA Sovereign Wealth Reserve, which is unalienable, 100% reserve asset trust, right? And this is what it's all about, is the trust, because this is what the hardest loop when people try to do their, sovereign citizen things and, things we were trying to do, Qranker. That's the biggest problem they run into, is the law of error. And when you read the very last few sentences of that, we the people seek full reparation and restitution of the assets acquired from the inception of the conspiracy to counterfeit USA dollar. We expect these forfeited assets to be remitted toward the establishment of the USA Sovereign Wealth Reserve, which is exclusively owned by the United States people. Then you go to, when you click out of that, click out of that section and then go into the...
You want the PDF?
Yeah, it's just the...
Or just the homepage?
Derivatives. Currency and derivatives. Down like... Okay, perfect. So you go into currency and credit derivatives now. Click on that, brings you to the top.
Which part of the page
Is
is
that
it?
on the
There's
bottom
so many
end?
different words here.
Currency and credit derivatives. Now, in the green line, about
Here.
$730
Oh, there
trillion.
we go.
Yeah, right there. Now go to the top and read that.
A derivative or credit swap, or sorry, a derivative or credit default swap CDS is a credit derivative contract between two parties. The buyer receives a payoff in an underlying financial instrument default.
So what they're saying in that post on the 4th of July is that we are the buyers. They're about to fail. And we're getting paid off $730 trillion just on that line alone. Not all the other lines that you go into and look at. So with that being said, you also have the DeFi Bankless Future line. And then you get into, you know, the Nasara Act, which I had the whole thing printed out. Somehow it got lost. It basically says that banks will become lending institutions. We will be our own banks. There will be no more financial gain from what they're, you know, basically fractional reserve banking system has created for us. And then the SARA Act also, with just SARA as well, you, from my understanding, it's my opinion, but you cannot collect your money given back to you unless you're in your home country. So what a better way to get everybody to go back to where they're from than to set it up that way. They cannot collect their money unless they go home. So bringing that into the ICE deportation and all the things that are going on with Trump, maybe that's a setup to get them to go home so that they're already there. And then for the big, you know, surprise, you got
We got the Jasara and Nasara plan right here on the Jasara map from DSMP.
Perfect. Yeah, and I agree with you, Andy, because the Jasara money, the people can't get their reparations back until they go back to their homeland. So this is where, you know,
just a
there's
perfect
multiple,
chess move.
yeah,
You know,
there's more than one reason of, you know, getting these people that are here unlawfully back to their homeland, and there's multiple reasons that just
they let
about
them come in on purpose. They allowed them in
yes,
on purpose so that they would wake people up in the process. They said the backwards plan of how they're going to easily get them to go back. They have beautiful countries. They don't need to be here. They're here because it's the, you know, American dream or so-called whatever. You know, they have freedom, which they didn't realize we were slaves. XRP is going to be the reserve currency for the new financial system, quantum financial system. XLM will be the open
Andy,
source.
Andy, let me interrupt. It looks like Ripple is going to take over the Federal Reserve. That's
Yes,
what,
absolutely, 100%,
yeah,
because that's going to
yeah.
be the world reserve. So now Jason was talking about the Fedwire coming on, right? They have to adopt ISO 20022 network. What did I tell you, Qranker? This cannot happen until Fedwire adopts the ISO network. It
I
cannot
told you,
happen. It's the biggest money transfer system. So Swift has to roll into that, which is what that basically is, right?
right.
So the fact he said that, it's all lining up between them dates is, and we're in the month of Soul as well, not July, because they took the 13th month away from us. Now going back to when it said 13/22, I don't know what that meant, but 13th month, Soul's the one they took away. They were talking about Soul when they put they put that post out. That's when the Phoenix rises.
Yeah.
Interesting, you know. So then, don't forget about XDC too. If we want to talk about a little bit about how they're gonna bring the bank to the unbanked, the XFIN network does that for Africa, for all these countries that have been robbed. It's the bridge for that. XLM is all the bridge for all the recaptured assets and to bring all that on. And XRP is the world currency reserve with gold, you know. And then
And the RV, the
they've
RV,
also,
Andy, hold on a second. That's how the RV is going to happen is when XRP takes over the reserve, because the RV will happen through XRP, not Stellar. It's going through XRP.
But the old system has to crash. The old system has to crash. Operation Sandman talks about that when the countries all do drop the dollar. But at the end of the day, extreme recovery plan for real world value, digital asset backed currency, also backed by new money, the rainbow currency. They showed us when that was coming when they counted all the ballots down in Arizona. They had all different colors on. They had the colors of the rainbow when they were recounting the ballots, and so they've showed subtle signs of this. But I think Jason's spot on with what he's talking about with those dates. It's very interesting what he was saying. But, they've suppressed this stuff all the way along, these precious metals, because, they've taken them from us. They've, backed things by nothing. And the crypto war right now with Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tether, it was all tied to let's say, awakening for us to understand that system, but also for them to use it negatively and do nefarious things while tying it to nothing and getting everybody to dump their money, because it was, as we all know, they were going to get everybody to dump their money into it and then crash it. That was their plan. So for them, cryptocurrencies would be Khazarian. The digital asset back, like Jason was saying, dividend dollar would be American. So it's really a United States Khazarian crypto war or digital war, which we are winning. But we need to have, let's say, I'm drawing a blank on the word, but we need to have a system that is allowing us to operate not nefarious, which is what the quantum financial system does. And I have Dylan that has the map for that, the 40,000 foot view. He's got it
right
up
up here, the poster version.
So so you got that one. That's a little different than the one I'm used to, but it shows exactly.
Oh, you want to see the original? So there was the original. What's the title of this one? Infographic of the quantum financial system, which was actually one of the inspirations for the JSAR map. I took information from this and cross-referenced it, but this had been floating around. I don't think anyone knew exactly where it came from, but some people said it was leaked by the military. Well, Emily said that. I don't know if I trust her, but everything on this diagram seemed accurate to me, as accurate it can be in terms of, us not knowing exactly what the future is going to be. But this seemed like quite the plan of the White Hats.
Yeah, and so there's a section in there that's with BIS, and that's where the credit and derivative swap came from. Source was Bank of International Settlements, was BIS. So what they're going to do is somehow, leak this money back to us through this quantum financial system, digital wallets, and probably a biometric identity through new phones. There's many things that are talked about, but for where we're at right now, what Jason's saying that FedWire's got to adopt that is what I've been waiting for a long time. So many movies, and they say they show us through the
And that's
movies,
happening July 14th, right?
Yes. The final phase of
Christmas in
ISO.
July. Christmas in July.
Yeah.
They've been saying it in a lot of movies, man. It's crazy.
The final phase of ISO is the 14th, the final phase.
Nice.
So then, a couple other things that were talked about was good AI versus bad AI. The last movie that they showed that was Venom's Last Dance. Venom has the AI. He has the black goo, but it's good. He won't eat dogs. He only eats bad people. The bad AI come in trying to take over. Good AI win. Also, V for Vendetta. Jason kept mentioning November 5th. Remember the 5th of November. There's a lot of truth to some of the stuff they put out in these movies. I don't know if it comes this month, next month, November, but we're damn close to where we're trying to get. I know that. And the references that with JFK, 9/11, all the stuff that Jason was saying with the numbers, I believe it all 100%. He's spot on. It's amazing his brain works. So, and it's
I'm just
interesting
looking
that
at
you
the
said,
crypto
Dylan,
numbers.
with the thing you said about the first Q post. What was that day?
October 20th, 2017.
My birthday.
Nice.
Can't even believe it. I love it. I'm gonna let you guys take over, but I just want to, and don't underestimate copper, guys. Like XCC is going to be huge, man. It's bringing the entire African ecosystem, all these countries back onto the blockchain, and they have to transfer many things to, a lot of money that has been stolen and put back in their reserves because when they raided the Vatican, all that money didn't come back just to USA. It went back to its places because they were keeping track of the fraud that they were doing. So all these vaults have already been done. The money's already been accounted for. They've been getting this ready for a long time.
Well, guys,
So,
I'm just looking at coin stats right now. Stellar is up 23% today.
Yeah.
And XRP is up like 8% and it's in the 240 range, which is a pretty strong breakout for where it's been, like flatlining around $2.20 for a few months here. And so we really could be seeing the beginning of the next bull run. And for the audience, I just want to make one thing extra clear here, if we didn't make it already clear, was that from this debt clock, you go to the secret window up here in the top right, and then you download this free PDF. And then where that gets you is into the PDF that Jason showed briefly, but I want to make sure people know where that came from, so that we're not going to discuss this whole thing tonight. But if you guys want to do your own research at home, go to that debt clock, download this PDF. And this is a 34-page PDF. The Qranker says they released July 4th, that this looks like a whole history, like bringing everyone up to speed on so much of this financial conspiracy, this pretty deep level conspiracy. It's not like like mainstream stuff that people know, but it's definitely true. Everything from the Federal Reserve, the connection of the Wizard of Oz to all of, like how it was. I'm looking at this for the first time, so I have no idea what this is about, but it's like this is going in deep. So I definitely think that's going to be some homework for everyone at home to investigate that PDF, and maybe we can just discuss it more next week when I've had a chance to really look at it. But it's pretty exciting stuff. And one other thing, I remembered an article that's been floating around that I want to share here before we do whatever we're going to do next. But is these articles, so many things came out of that press conference yesterday with Trump having his cabinet meeting, and this was one of them, saying Trump suggests taking over New York City and Washington. And so there's been a lot of articles about this, saying the federal government's taking over Washington, federal government may take over New York City. And, this is just based on Trump's kind of casual comments. This isn't like official news or not yet. But I mean, these are pretty serious things to be talking about. President Trump talking about a federal takeover of New York City in his cabinet meeting. He's saying if Zohran, the Muslim Democrat candidate for mayor, is elected, we might have to take over New York City. The federal government's perfectly capable of running these type of places. He didn't elaborate on the authority. We could run DC. We're looking into running DC. Obviously, Washington Mayor Muriel Bowser is a deep state slime unless she's been replaced. So, I mean, these are huge wheels in motion. We've already seen National Guard being activated in California and other places. So it's happening, guys. I mean, all signs point to green light.
No doubt. Thanks, Dylan. That's great stuff. I want to bring up something that Andy brought up, because Jason and I talked on the phone earlier today. Folks, don't overlook copper as an investment going into this new world that we're going into, because copper is going to have a lot of different needs in our new world. It's very healing for all of us. And I wanted to mention this too, because this is really important. So, before 1904, gold was never part of the Olympics. Silver was first place. Then it was bronze, and then copper. Gold was not even part of the Olympics. And the reason I say that, I had asked Google AI today, I says, will silver in value surpass gold? And it said, not immediately, but at the long term, yes, the value of silver will be worth more than gold. So you see where silver's at today. It's at like $36 70 cents, right around that. I mean, the best investment you could do is buy some silver and copper right now, because copper is going to go. Everyone looks at the big number, and I want to bring this up, and then I want everyone to talk about this. Everyone goes, well, gold's worth this. Well, yeah, but what if gold only goes to $4,000 or $5,000, and silver goes to 1,800 to 2,000? Your return on investment is so much more with silver and copper. It's not even funny. Okay. And the other thing is that a lot of people that have Bitcoin right now, they go, well, Bitcoin's only, so you have to understand these numbers are on fiat money, the fake monopoly money. And when we go back to the asset back, when this flip of the switch goes, we go back to the when we go to the quantum financial system and everything's backed by precious metals or commodities, like Andy was talking about, the value of the dollar and all the currencies all over the world, it's going to be 1-to-1. Trump has said 1-to-1. It's going to be a fair trade. Well, the reason he says that is because the cost of things are going to come down because the value of our money is going to go up. In other words, right now, the American dollar, if you look on the debt clock, it's only worth just less than 4 cents on the dollar. That's why everything's so damn expensive. Mm-hmm. Now, imagine when you look at the Vietnamese dong or you look at all the other currencies, the cabals manipulated all these currencies to their liking. And then they would tariff the shit out of us for, when we sent to other countries. Well, when we go 1-to-1, what's happening? What happened with the Vietnamese president? Now you look at what Bolsonaro and Trump are going. He's going, we're going to do a 50% tax on Brazil. Well, what he's doing is he's forcing a hand to come to the table. Let's sit down. Let's get to his BRICS. He says BRICS will take down is a threat against the American dollar. He's not talking about the new dollar. He's talking about the old fiat dollar. Because by understanding this new tariffs, he's bringing all the countries to the table so that we have a fair trade and a 1-to-1 currency. So no country is going to be left behind and no country is going to be poor. So I wanted to make that reference. Does anyone want to comment on that?
Yeah, if I could, just because we have
first,
I'm sorry, bro. Because we have an impression that these countries are poor. Chile's the biggest exporter of copper, but actually when they get the copper, it comes along with the gold, so they steal the gold. So the ingots, they scrape them before they leave, and they actually mess up all kinds of eco stuff. But if you were to look like at Haiti, Brazil, African countries, they have been raped and pillaged for hundreds and hundreds of years. But now with the new tech, you're talking dielectrics. Copper is a dielectric. It's actually when you start making stuff, it works better than other things, just like silver. I was talking to a high-tech guy, the Air Force, and he was like, ChiliMan, that if we had to make this tube, that runs this turbine, that does all this stuff, it would have to be like an inch thick in gold. But with just a plate of silver, a plate of it, it's like electroplate, like, $2 does more than all that gold in this machinery. So it has, and just if you do the numbers of what it is on the atomic, so we have a misconception of who's rich and who's poor. Because if you notice, even where the diamonds come from, wherever there is a deposit of richness, they wreck the town. They kill the people. They invade. So if everybody could just harness what they have, then they wouldn't need to leave their culture, because there would be like $2 billion of gold for every citizen that lives in that country. So it's like, if you do it by resources, you'll notice that some of these little countries could become paradises overnight, because they won't need government. They just need to love each other and get along and start rebuilding things in nature, and not out of sync with nature. I mean, we live in Faraday boxes, for God's sake. We're not living right. We don't eat right. Everything's messed up. So this is a way to kind of get back to Mother Earth. So that there is no poverty. That, you know, we live in abundance. We've just been enslaved to think that we got nothing. And you'll find out that some of these little African countries, rare earth minerals, dude, like everybody needs to be in their wealth, you know, and there won't be any other problems.
Trump just talked to the African presidents today, and it was a great message. And you know, we're going to find out that a lot of these countries, like you say, Chile, they're way richer than what they, you know, the cabal has suppressed them. I know I had a conversation with Anna, and Anna says, you know, her father's and grandfather and grandfather, and back in the day, Brazil was one of the wealthiest countries there was, and people were very, very wealthy, and they wore gold and silver and diamonds. I mean, they were extremely wealthy, and then the cabal came in and they decimated all these cities. And you know, South America, as you know, you've taught me, has a lot of reserves. And Africa's got a ton of reserves too. So I love the idea that we're talking about copper, because no one's talking about copper, and it's a very inexpensive investment. I know Andy's the one who brought it to my eyes about 6-7 years ago, and copper is a great investment, you guys. There's going to be a lot of things that we're going to use copper for in the upcoming years. So I'm just basically just telling you what we researched. By no means are we telling you what to do. But yeah, I mean, going into this new world, if you get into digital assets with XRP, XLM, XDC, you know, all the main stable coins, you're going to be set for life. And if you're not paying attention to this, I mean, Dan Pena, who is a billionaire, who's Trump's friend, he has some pretty strong words, and I won't say it here, but he said, if you're not paying attention, what are you going to tell your grandchildren? What are you going to tell your children? What are you going to tell your great-grandchildren when the largest transfer of wealth, which is happening right now, what did you do to set up your family? You know, so that's, you can look him up on YouTube and you can hear his exact words. I won't say them here, but this is the largest ever in history transfer of wealth that's ever happening. The wealth of the wicked is now coming back to the righteous of God's children. And if you're really paying attention, you can really capitalize on some incredible, incredible investments. Anyone want to add to that?
So when you say that, and so we'll just go back to copper for a second for the thing you sent me, because it said copper could be, according to COMEX, could rise up to 17%. Very interesting post. And Trump also made a post that said August 1st there will be more money pouring in tariffs than ever had. So
On this call.
that was can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you, Andy.
So it's very interesting through tariffs, right? Which tariffs we know are just making everything one-to-one and bringing money that's been stolen from us back in. But he does everything metaphorically with his speech that we have to try to catch on to. I think for bringing money onto the open source, which is a stellar network, there's on and off ramps for everything. XDC is just going to be the bridge through Arctic Corda to bring in all of that money from Africa and everything that is there as assets. Like Chili was saying, there's more money, there's more things, assets for precious metals and things like that that haven't even been touched yet. But one thing we never forget is we're here for humanity. No matter what people, you know, get financial wise or whatever, our mission is to not get something more than another person, but to help that person be with us. Just like the food experiment they did when they set the food at the edge of the woods and they had all the African children run to get the food. Some would get there first, but they all sat down in a circle, put their feet in a circle, and then they all shared and ate together. And the guy that did the experiment asked them why. He said,
one of us be happy if all of us are happy. And that's the mentality we're in my opinion.
Andy, thanks for bringing that up, because I think that's really important what you just said there. And I challenge all the RV people, I challenge all the XRP people, all the people that are in this movement that know what we're talking about and are invested in all three aspects: the foreign currency, the digital currency, and the precious metals. We certainly want to take care of ourselves. We certainly want to take care of our families and our friends. But this is a calling from God to also take care of our communities and help those that do not know. So I hear a lot about, people with XRP. Oh, I got this. What are you going to do with it? Is it, are you going to go buy a yacht, or are you going to go into your community? Are you going to help fund your community? Are you going to help build your community with those funds? Because it's not our money. It's not our money. There's a reason why they call it precious metals. It's because God gave it to us. It's his money. We just become the stewards of that money. So I am challenging everyone who's in the game. What's your plan when this wealth comes to us? Anyone want to add to that?
Just add amen to that.
Thank you. Well, I want to end. My friend in Brazil sent us a little message, and I shared it with you guys, and I'd like to read it. And we're going to have her join us next week, because I'd like to get her perspective from a woman's perspective, a divine woman. We have a lot of masculinity on her, but she can really give us what the heartbeat is going in Brazil, down there by Chile's country, down in Chile. And I want to start bridging out, getting our word out to other countries. And by having those people on, we're able to bridge our information, and by having her. But she sent a letter, and I want to just read this. It says, "Dear Patriots on Qranker's Pit, I feel honored to be here sending you this brief message from my beloved home country, Brazil. With your resilience and proof of faith in your heart, you have been assisting so many people all over this beautiful land we call Earth. On the latest message from Pappy, which is Trump, regarding Brazil, how great is it to be here and witness people move their passion and emotions to support Pappy, whom once again proves his commitment to give back sovereignty to we the people, and expresses his support and loyalty to President Bolsonaro, who is also very much loved by the Brazilians. Mr. Bolsonaro brought a breath of fresh air to Brazil in 2018 when he was stabbed during his presidential campaign, overcame by his physical condition, always committed to we the people as a brave guardian of freedom. I am sure President Trump and his team knows how much Brazil is grateful for their exquisite commitment to the plan. And with our faith, our thy Almighty Father, we trust the plan. For that reason, so righteousness can be restored here anywhere necessary. We look forward to the tariffs on made in Brazil products as a strategy for peace through the fair trade. It's coming very shortly in our lives. I look forward to talk to you, and be sure that Brazil loves you guys all. God bless you, my fellow guardians, Anamerans. So that's a message to all you guys. So she shares our show on the channel, and the people in Brazil, they really like our show. So we're going to invite her on next week.
Thank you, Anna.
Nice. Yeah, you can never forget that this is an international operation and an international alliance, as much as it is focused on the USA. All the different pieces of the puzzle are very important.
It is. Any closing thoughts? Mike, you've been quiet through here. You've been listening. You got any thoughts in the podcast here?
No, I totally just have been impressed by the whole presentation that Jason did. actually overwhelmed to some degree. And I think it's that Dylan has the maps to prove exactly what is going on. I think July 14th is a pivotal date in what's going to be pretty much the start and the birth of what's happening. So uh, again, I'm honored to be part of this, and I'm more ears than I am mouth. So I thank you, Qranker, for letting me be part of all this.
It's our pleasure to have you, Mike. You're a great patriot. ChiliMan?
Peace and love. Peace, love, and freedom, bro. We're exploring everything, and we're not always right. We're not always wrong. We're not crazy. We're just sometimes in the trenches. It's hard to stay on top of things, but we monitor everything. We got like teams of 1,500 autistic people that we call on sometimes to figure out some problems. Remote viewers, people talking like in code through emojis. It's like not everything is done through this. So it's nice to have a worldwide consensus. We're not trying to judge anybody. I do no commerce. No, no more. I'm really trying to, because if you could do it with nothing, what's going to happen when they give us something? We can change this world like that. We just need for them to get out of our way. So if me and Qranker make a water car, they're not going to fucking blow us away, because it's not commerce. We're just trying to live like we're supposed to, in love and harmony and peace. And we're the builders. So no more war, and we all have to unite. We have our differences, in religion and all that stuff. Once the truth comes out, you're not going to want to attach to anything that's, some deity that you've been, and it hurts. It's messy. So I just look forward to it, man. I want to dance and sing again. We forgot, and we can't lose our sense of humor, even in the sight of total, like, you just got to say, how about a dance? Let's sing, let's sing the FU song. So keep rocking, guys.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. Kid, go ahead.
Being said, you talk about dancing and singing. There's a reference in the Bible. I believe it metaphorically, maybe half truth. I'm not sure for what they gave us, but it says those who are dancing in the streets look crazy to those who cannot hear the music. And that's who we are in a nutshell. We're thinking outside the box. We're going off the circle of the train track. We're trying to drill holes in the dark box of comfortableness that people live in. And, that's just our main purpose, is to ascend, right? From what we were taught, because we only were taught what we know from when we came here as a baby. So it's really up to us to figure it out. It's the only way we're going to do it is to question everything. And I believe that certain people have different DNA complex that got the ultraviolet ray, zap for this to happen, because I believe we didn't have a choice, for the mission that we were sent on, similar to Neo in the Matrix. Neo got taught karate instantly. We got to download information, not maybe instantly, but kind of. I mean, we didn't have a choice for it. And then it was up to us to learn how to use the information, like he had to learn how to use the karate to beat Morpheus. Because originally, Morpheus whooped his ass. But then he figured out, what he had to do for the karate. And same thing, like I told Qranker, for us in our information, how we disseminate. But never, for me, cause hate or anger or conflict when you're trying to. It's judging the energy of the other person to maybe plant the seed or not, but to spread the love through planting seed, hard for us in this duality. but that's the only best way I can, reference what I kind of went through for me in the energy of learning and having to go through those long nights where you can't sleep and you just compelled to just keep researching and, get up and do your next day and then do it again. And, many relationships have been severed, but maybe for the shuffling a deck of cards for humanity, probably on purpose. Many things have been revealed and many people have separated. Um, it's going to be interesting how it ends. Honestly, like I've always said, it's going to be a Scooby-Doo ending. We haven't seen that part yet, but
Thanks.
that's all I
Thanks,
love,
Andy.
guys, and that's all I got to say. Just spread
Thanks,
love.
brother. Thank you. Dylan,
Yes.
parting
I just
words.
want to say I think that this podcast is really important to have our voices out there, who are staying loyal to the plan, loyal to Trump, because there's just so much FUD out there. I still like to check Drudge Report, but I'm more and more horrified every day about how just negative they are about this whole administration and how they're twisting the facts, and how even, Republicans and even former Q patriots and even people like Candace Owens are, turning on this movement. And I mean, it's okay to be critical, and I think that's part of this movement strategy. But it's important for us who are like the loyalists, to maintain our voice out there. And despite like not getting the Epstein list and these like minor little losses, like we just had a big beautiful bill. We just won World War III. We went from World War III to like Labubu's being the top story in the world, and people just haven't even celebrated yet. It's just like move on to the next thing. United States of amnesia is what it's been called sometimes. So we got to celebrate our victories. And on this podcast, we're just trying to drop some little, not financial advice, but what we're doing financially, what we believe will be the best route to have a successful future. And so we just have a lot to celebrate, and we're in the middle of the storm. And I think we're closing in on the real enemy here, which is the banksters and the little state in the Middle East and the people running it, and the people even above that, the royalty and the black nobility and the Satanists that are all throughout this country. So we're coming up to the final finale here. I know we say that a lot, but I really believe it. And we didn't bring it up in this video, but there was that Q post that said 6 years from 2019, like was the span of this operation. 2 years prior to that, and 5 years after that, and we're right here. That was 2 days ago, and so I was almost expecting some kind of huge conclusion yesterday, because that was literally the 5 year delta from that post. But we're definitely, well, I won't say definitely in the final stretch, but it feels like we are. We've been saying that for 8 years, but this time we're serious.
Thanks, Dylan. Awesome. Jason, what you got, brother?
Where should I start? So, sitting here now, when they say Christmas in July, right? There's 2 Christmases in July. Because remember, January lines up with July, right? So when you look at January 7th, right? That's a Christmas. But then you can't go back. You have to keep on in the same month. Then July 25th, the day at a time, right? Isn't it just a coincidence that if you're on Christmas and the next day you start counting and you count the Christmas Eve, the 24th, it's 17 days. Then, Chili. Remember you mentioned Thutmose? Thutmose the Third, huh?
Yep.
You know what the funny thing about Thutmose the Third is? What is the biggest battle he won? The Battle of Megiddo, which is where they get the term Armageddon from. That was in 1457, which is a 17. Also, Thutmose the Third, you got a 20 for the T plus 3. There you go. But the 2 Christmases in July, 7/7/2025 and 7/25/2025, they're both 23 pains. And they're both within the dog days of summer. The dog days of summer run from July 3rd to August 11th. So it's going to be within those, because you have 2 full moons within those. You've got the buck moon, and then you have the sturgeon moon. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot. But
and that 23 is double U. So there's that duality to it. It's heavy shit, man.
Yeah. But
Don't forget about 23 and me.
yeah,
The 24th chromosome be the God gene inside, the awakening, the Christ, the Cristo.
and even when you mentioned credit
Rotate
default swap,
differently.
when you were talking about credit default swap earlier, that's a 17. That's a C before D as well.
I was gonna ask you to do the numbers on it. That's hilarious.
Yep.
Love it.
And also, I want to make an announcement for this Sunday. On We Not Me at 11 a.m. We're having Philip Turney back on from the USS Liberty because there's some stuff that went down, and yeah, it's gonna be an ugly show. Yeah.
Yeah, was that the 7-day war or the 12-day war?
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned it. That was the 6-day war, right?
Oh, that was the 6-day war, right?
Now, when Trump came out and said, he talked about Iran and Iraq. He's like, Iran and Israel. He's like, does the 12-day war, right? Well, if we have to go in sequential order, remember he's like, oh, so we have to give all these weapons to Ukraine and Israel. It's like, nobody told them how they were getting delivered. Because you go 6, 12, 18, right? 1,800 MK-84s, right? But you have to split them. You send half to Israel and half to Ukraine. But they're going to be dropped by stealth bombers. You got to end them both. Because you have to get the bunkers. Because everything underground in Ukraine and Israel is just nothing but just filth. It's
that's what the 18 MK 84s were, right? Those are
yeah.
What if weapons wore med beds?
Those are bunker bombs.
Going on. What if he meant differently? We're delivering different things.
I think those are the bunker bombs.
Oh, you got to take both those countries out. Both of them got to take it out, especially Israel. The only way that Trump is going to get himself out of this, that's why he's just building onto it and saying, oh, you got nothing to see here, because how high does this go? Now you're starting to talk. Now it's like, well, as soon as he's like, oh, there's no Epstein list or anything. Who came the next day? BB. It's like, odd. He knows what the hell's going on. He knows that they're behind all this. They've always been behind it.
Well, you know that what is it, Mount Huron or
Herman?
even the Golden Dome? That's the trapezium. That's the Stargate. That's what all the wars have been about, like literally. And it's connected to Orion, just like all the pyramids that you can see how they're literally a mirror of the Pleiades, of the Seven Sisters, and their musical tones, and they know all this stuff. But and when Trump said that about the Golden Dome, I was like, ooh, wait a minute here, not only frequency and the border and all that stuff, but if you have control over that trapezium, that gives you leverage over everything. And that's been taken over by war. So wouldn't it be nice to throw a little peace in that Stargate?
Is that the sunset?
That's a moon, bro.
It's a moon.
It's just coming up. I just noticed it's full.
Solar simulator moon?
No, it's a full moon tonight, actually.
Yeah, I just seen it, so I had to get it up on video. Yeah.
And for the audience, it's really hard to get the last word when you have this much talent on this.
That's insane. It's fun. I love listening to all y'all. It's amazing. And Jason, you with your numbers, man. Love you.
Oh man, love you guys too. I mean, this, like I said, all of us are in this together. It's like all these documents, it's all of ours, because we can't give them shit. Because as long as we have them, we control them. Because we needed proof on paper so that we could give them over and say, here's a progress report. You guys did awesome.
No doubt.
I mean, they're gonna have to put another wing on the library for all of our stuff. I mean, all of our stuff collectively. Because he's gonna have a massive Q wing, because who's paying for it? Fake news.
No doubt.
The guy's brilliant. Hey, Jesus, this is awesome. Just
Sorry, guys. The horse flies are freaking killing me out here. Deer flies. But I'm just trying to get this.
All right, well, I
That's
think we should wrap
badass.
it up. I started it, so I guess I'll end it for this one. I'll say,
Hold on a second, Dylan. I gotta say this
go
because
ahead.
I really want to stress the fact that, you know, during this time, keep the peace, keep the peace, you know, and for all those patriots out there that we've been living in a duality world, just know it made us stronger because we had to live in a world that we're not supposed to be in, and we know that we're going to a different world that we're going to be going into. And the most important thing is keep the peace and then love one another. So, all right, Dylan, now you can finally put a wrap on this thing.
Well, I gotta throw in a check out dsmp.io, Deep State Mapping Project. You can get all the posters you see behind me. If you're watching this on We Not Me, come subscribe to New Templars on Rumble. If you're watching this on New Templars, go over subscribe to We Not Me on Rumble and YouTube. I'm also DSMP Nexus on YouTube. So let's cross pollinate. Let's keep each other all financed and happy, get our investments in. Like Qranker said, keep the peace, hold the light, hold the love, and we'll see you guys on the next podcast.